we're starting with the Ostrich Farm update. If you have not been following the work of one Chris Dacey, and I hope does he say Dicey or I think it's Dacey. I remember him saying it in a way that I was like, oh, I might be mispronouncing his name. Chris Dacey has been on site. He's been there, and this is not to take away at all from anybody else's work. Drea Humphreys has been doing the Lord's work out there. Sheila Gunn Reid, Lord's work. Ezra Levant, Lord's work. Chris Dacey, also Lord's work. Chris, I'm bringing you in. Sir, how goes the battle?
I mean, it goes, I guess. Not real comfortable standing with these guys behind me after they threatened to arrest me the other day. And, just off to my right was the scene of a mass slaughter. Hundreds of gunshots rang out, piercing the night. It's been a pretty hard few days here, to be honest.
You people might not know who you are. Chris Dacey, Dacey Media, independent journalist. One day we'll do a deeper dive into all the other stuff that you've been experiencing in life for having, covered trans ideology and all the other stuff. You've been now at Edgewood Universal Ostrich Farms in British Columbia for how many? It's been like 2.5 weeks now, right?
It's been over a month, I believe. It's hard to keep track exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's been over a month, just over a month.
Jeez Louise, you've been down there. You're documenting everything in real time across your social media. Chris, you were there the night of the slaughter, and the Supreme Court ruling came down. It was Thursday morning. There was a moment where Katie thought the dismissal was of the CFIA's lawsuit and not of their appeal of it, and it went from elation to devastation, and then they literally spent the entire night slaughtering these animals. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, well, that's how the day started. So the Supreme Court was announcing their decision. I think it was like 9:45 Eastern. So we were up bright and early. That was, before 7 here. The sun was just coming up. And, we got that news come in. Katie read it. And at first, she just read the top part and thought that they had won. Everyone celebrated. And then, like you say, it went from elation to devastation. And that's happened a lot here. Things are very up and down. You'll get a bit of good news and then devastating news. That whole day was pretty eerie. And then just as darkness fell, pretty much hundreds of gunshots rang out. It was actually very nasty.
I know. Well, I'm not being hyperbolic. It's literally the stuff of nightmares. For anybody who's ever experienced tragedy or trauma, there's a moment where it literally feels like a nightmare. And you're like, please just wake up. Please just wake up. And you're not waking up. How did it happen when the first gunshots start to ring out?
I mean, they just started, really. There was no warning, really. There's a family that I've been covering quite a bit, an unrelated property that's seized and being used operationally here, causes a lot of tension. They were back in here, so they were probably the closest and could see the pens. Nobody warned anybody. All of a sudden, gunshots just rang out. And the first volley, I would say, was 150, 160 probably rounds fired. As this happened, people were falling to the ground, screaming in terror. Blood-curdling screams. And that kind of thing went on, right? And then there'd be a pause. Everyone was completely distraught, and all of a sudden the gunfire would go off again. And there was at least 5 rounds of shooting. People are saying they've counted something like 800-900 gunshots. Sounded like a few different rifles, maybe a couple different calibers. There was definitely multiple shooters. And as this was going on, the RCMP were basically doing everything in their power to make the situation more difficult than it had to be and antagonize people. They brought in their shift change, so they started shooting, and they brought in their shift change late with about 50 police cars lining the whole street behind me. They lined up at this, what the police call arrest gate here behind me. It's basically an armed checkpoint to get into the seized property here. Lined up it reminded me a bit of convoy, honestly, lined up abreast, very serious. It was pretty nasty. And I think worth noting, during that day, the whole day prior, a PLT officer, staff sergeant with the police liaison team was spent the day basically trying to antagonize and provoke me. Not just myself, also the owner of this property. They've done the same to Mike Rood, Sergeant Mike Rood. So it seems like they were targeting people they thought they might be able to get to react. We didn't. And then they threatened me for my efforts. They threatened me with arrest. So
I will get to that in a second. I just want to get through the actual timeline of the horror. It's the first shots start ringing out sundown, or it's like well beyond dark at this time.
Yeah, it was dark at that point. I believe it might have been around 6 something. It's hard to say. Like the whole thing is a bit of a blur.
I know. I totally appreciate that. But that's it. You just start hearing gunshots going off. Do you hear? Not to get too graphic, I need to ask. Do you hear the birds making noises?
I was told that the birds were crying out and screaming. I imagine they were terrified. As soon as the first gunshot went off, every one of those birds would have been terrified. we know there was not 400 birds, right? So 800 shots, we're looking at minimum 2 shots, maybe more, 3, 4 shots. And that was going on well into the night. And it seems as though in the morning, not all the birds had been dispatched. Some may have had to be dispatched manually. There was sporadic gunfire. Yeah, it was gruesome. And then it was just as gruesome afterwards when we had to look at what was left behind.
So they do this throughout the night. When do the gunshots stop?
I'm excuse me. They were still going well after midnight, and I was told that there were sporadic ones later than that. So like I had kind of calmed down, is maybe the wrong word. I was just trying to absorb what had happened. And around 12:30, a round of gunshots went out, and I jumped out of my skin. Like same thing happened yesterday. So I mean, this is a rural area. Gunfire isn't that unusual. But now I hear a gunshot way in the distance, and I literally jump out of my skin. Gunshots never used to bother me before, but they certainly do now. And I know I'm not the only one.
So let's just say it goes on for give or take 4 hours, whatever. But
Yeah.
by 1 o'clock in the morning, it's done. Everybody is thoroughly traumatized, and then the sun rises. And what do you see when the sun rises?
Absolute horror. Piles of bodies, dumpsters being dragged in to take out carcasses, what appeared to me to be headless birds, or grievously injured. I mean, there could be a bunch of different things going on, but it was absolute carnage. Skid steers coming in and dragging ostriches around and poking them, and it's just absolute carnage. And I mean, these are large animals. These aren't chickens, right? These are animals. Some of them have been with this family for over 35 years. There's a picture of the step or the daughter from inside this property with an ostrich when she was a baby. You know, over 30 years ago, her baby picture. And like, so they've grown up with these ostriches and these birds for years. They have they had obvious and distinct personalities. They're ancient, they're large animals, ancient birds, and I mean, they're all gone now, all gone.
And now I just want to get logistics here, because the argument and the rationale, and Angie Rasmussen, if you're watching, you'll maybe answer this question yourself. The rationale was that they were a vector, a potential spread of the disease, even though they were not asymptomatic, healthy, but they, who the hell knows, shedding from a year ago an infection. How long were the carcasses left outside for? Are there still carcasses out there, or have they gotten rid of all?
I believe the carcasses are gone, but the cleanup is certainly not done. I mean, there must be bullet casings all over the place. There's that would be a lot of blood from that many animals. This is supposed to be a biohazard area, right? And like just before we got on, the commander came through, the RCMP commander, with all kinds of hay and mud that he just drove out of these fields in. Just drives out and right down the area, kicking off biohazard. You know, but it's all complete nonsense. Honestly, they drive in and out of there, but no problem. They drive out onto the highway after being in the killing fields. Some wear PPE, some don't wear PPE.
No, and Ezra from Rebel News was commenting on how they were spreading the blood-soaked hay across fields. But if you know, were the carcasses left out for the next day, 2 days? Did it take a couple of days to get them out?
Yeah, I mean, it took well past the first day. So, I mean, over a day. You know, some of them were tarped. Most of them were just lying in the open. Some were in piles. And I guess there was a few birds that they weren't able to corral that they had to chase down and hunt outside of the pens. So it was a pretty nasty scene.
I try to believe in some form of spirituality to temper down the seething. It's rage, it's disgust, it's scorn. It's righteous. This is absolute savagery perpetrated by what I consider to be a terrorist entity, the RCMP. Get into if anybody has any questions that I didn't get to. I mean, these are the details that everybody needs to hear. We saw that itch bay of the RCMP getting in your face, saying you're too close to the police, even though they have a line that separates the public area from the police area. And, you know, if you get too close to the line, we'll move your line up, cops. She says, you're too close to me. I'd like to cross the line. I played this yesterday. And then she crosses right in your face. I just want to know what's going on here. What are the RCMP doing? Like, I feel bad almost. Like maybe I'm being too hard on these terrorist Gestapo agents. Maybe I am. I don't think I am.
I tried to do it the other way. And, you know, I come in with my own trauma. I watched the RCMP beat the living snot out of people on Wellington Street, you know, with sticks and shooting reporters with 40 millimeter gas grenades. And I've seen some nasty stuff, but I tried very hard to, you know, I didn't come in here to fight the RCMP. I'm not anti-law enforcement either. At least I wasn't. Most of my life, I was a very large supporter of law enforcement. But the behavior of the RCMP here, to me, was beyond unacceptable, and it went well beyond incompetence. I think it was a targeted thing. It's the only way I can see. They came at me multiple times. I watched it come after many people. I also have a whole lot of video that hasn't been released yet, because I wasn't trying to turn this into a me versus or whatever, the RCMP type of thing. But they forced my hand. They acted out of line and they forced my hand. And afterwards, they came and they threatened to arrest me for doing journalism. So I mean, there's a few problems there, but the RCMP have certainly not done a good job here, in my opinion. And I think they made a basically impossible situation far worse than it had to be.
You've been there for, say, however long it's been. If it's been a month, it's been a month. It's wild. There's no way that there were 330 ostriches by the end of this. There ought to have been, in theory, 397 at the time they took custody. I don't know why the CFIA warrant only refers to 330. By the end of it, I don't think that there's consensus. There were not 330 ostriches there.
No, and I mean, Mike Rood and I, Sergeant Mike Rood, retired. He's an airborne veteran in the Canadian Forces. We provided a lot of high quality video to do counts. The CFIA refused to count the number of birds or disclose the number. The RCMP weren't able to help because they're under the boot of the CFIA. But we provided that high quality video. I mean, you can count for yourself if you want to see it. Check it out on my X account. You can also check.
I gave up at a certain point. I mean, but it wasn't 300. I mean,
no, it's not even close. It's not even close. And then also we have pictures. I'll make sure those get out today. But from the day before the slaughter, when most of the ostriches were herded into the pen, we have a picture of everything in the pen and the only other area with ostriches. And there's not nearly enough. And then again, after the slaughter, we have that video that's gone absolutely viral of all the dead ostriches, and there's not nearly enough there either. I mean, even if you're very generous and say that small pile has 50 ostriches we can't see, we're still not getting to the numbers that they say there should be.
And from what I understand, the proportion of hens to roosters, is it hens to roosters, was not at the end what it was at the beginning. There were more females to males at the beginning, and by the end of it, it was equal or more males to females.
Certainly appears so to me. So what I was noticing is it was mainly black birds. So the males are dark, almost black color, and then the females are a lighter color, kind of like a gray. And we were noticing almost, not exclusively, but a far larger number, all black birds basically. So I asked the family, asked a few different people, what is the normal proportion? And they said that it should be 2 or 3 to 1 females to males. Because the breeding hen, they're the ones with the eggs. It's like this with a lot of farming, right? The females are quite valuable. In this case, they're valuable for a number of reasons. Those eggs carry antibodies. They produce the eggs. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that, baby. But it seems as though perhaps the hens were being targeted, maybe taken away. I don't know. We tried very hard to prove what was going on here. There's zero transparency. Everything's so opaque here. You have kill walls, 20-foot tall kill walls, privacy fencing. Nobody's allowed near it. Everyone's wearing, marshmallow suits. And that kind of does breed paranoia, but we tried very hard. And I tried to do this skeptically. But everything that I see indicates there's something very gross going on and that there aren't enough birds. And the number of birds was continuously dropping until they slaughtered them all.
Slaughtered them all
or the remaining.
Slaughtered them all within 12 hours without, I don't know what reprieve would have possibly been left for the family. But now the other question that I had was this. They're also seizing or confiscating eggs.
Yeah, it seems so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they say the H5N1 fear of spread to confiscate eggs and other material. I'll need a scientist from the CBC to explain what sense that makes.
Well, I think it's important to note as well that they did test like way back. I believe it was 2 dead birds using PCR tests. None of the other birds that recovered, none of the birds here were ever tested after that. In fact, if anyone tried to test them, they were facing a $200,000 fine and 6 months in jail for each bird tested. So they really didn't want these birds tested.
I like to think what I would have done: get them tested and go to jail, and that'll be the civil disobedience that shocks the world. It looks like the slaughter needed to happen to shock the world, and
it may have. I hate to say that, but I kind of was saying that before and thinking that sometimes terrible things do have to happen for change or for good to come later. I don't pretend to understand the larger picture here. I'm still kind of in shock, and I'm reeling. I came in
No,
mentally prepared for this occurrence, but like nobody could prepare themselves for what happened here that night.
it's not something that a human with a conscience or a human with a soul could possibly deal with. Anybody who's had to peacefully euthanize their 15-year-old dog sits there and sobs like a baby.
Well, that was the other terrifying thing for people here, right? People were very concerned. A lot of dogs around here, and there was a lot of concern that these crazy people back here might try to go after dogs or get someone's dog. You know, say a dog crosses the line, a dog is contaminated. That would certainly be a way to infuriate me. If someone came after my dog, I would. Well, you know what it's like.
Well, with one of my dogs, if they came in, my paralyzed one who's 15 years old and has a massive tumor on, maybe, I defend her less vigorously. That's a joke. Still, I just went and squeezed pee out of her before the show started. Dacey, and then now let's get into this because they objectively threatened you.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
I know. I saw the video. For those who haven't seen it, like it's a 3-minute video. Check out your feed. It's Dacey Media on Twitter, and I'm going to give everybody the link. But they come up and say you're recording here and you're showing badge numbers, and we consider that doxing, and it might be a form of harassment. What exactly did they say?
Yeah, so I mean, they came up and they said that they came right up to me. But as soon as I got out of the farm, interestingly enough, so someone radioed ahead to the command post, and within a minute or two after I got out of the wire, so to speak, out of the farm, and up onto the road, within minutes, the sergeant rolled up on me, walked up. Are you Chris Dacey? Like, obviously knew who I was, and said, I need to tell you something. So at that point, I was pretty sure I wasn't getting arrested, but it certainly wasn't comfortable. And then he proceeded to quote the criminal code and quote part of it. He left out some very important parts. Basically accused me of creating like intimidation, threats, or fear in a justice system participant, and also doxing. They left out the part of the criminal code there at the end of that where it's justice system participant or journalist. And then they left out section C of that code, which is supposed to protect journalists from what they're doing to me. Like, they're the ones that are terrorizing. They're the ones that are threatening. They're the ones that are instilling fear in a journalist, obstructing me from doing my job, which is the same.
Appreciate, like, what they're basically saying is if you not even shine a spotlight, just a camera documenting what they're doing, that's somehow going to be an obstruction to what they're trying to do because people are going to be sufficiently outraged.
Well, and these are people that won't wear their names on their uniforms, right? So they have numbers on their uniform. They're too ashamed to have their names on there. They have numbers so they can be identified to the public. These are public figures that are identifiable. You know, I didn't say their names. I didn't do anything. Like the PLT, she was identified in my comments. And I shared one Facebook post, a public Facebook post of hers, of her bragging and explaining who she was. And that's it.
He is a RCMP officer who serves the public. People are saying that if the people are outraged at what they're doing, first of all, that's called freedom and that's called their rights. But the idea that they would take off the numbers and the license plates and the identifying numbers of the vehicles coming in, so you have no idea who's contracting with them. They take their own names away. This happens in the dead of night. Everyone's anonymized, and they literally carry out a slaughter, the most atrocious thing imaginable, under the cloak of anonymity, and then argue that anybody who sheds a light, otherwise known as transparency or freedom, is somehow threatening, intimidating, or obstructing the process of their evil injustice. It's amazing. And some fucking liberal idiots out there are all okay with this.
And I mean, it's me right now, but it's going to be them later. Like, this doesn't stop. It only gets worse.
It's only gotten worse. Like, but the problem is there hasn't been any justice from these RCMP terrorists for doing what they did during the Ottawa protests. People seem to have forgotten their gleeful text messages when the old Indigenous lady was knocked over by the horse, and they're like, "Save some protesters for me." People forgot about that. Nobody went to jail. Nobody got sanctioned.
No, and they were all absolved of it. It was all like, I mean, the whole thing was declared. The Emergency Act was declared unlawful, ultra-virus, unlawful, unjustified, a whole bunch of things. Nothing ever came of it. And all the people that were grievously injured, traumatized, and hurt have no recourse. There's no accountability, no acknowledgement even. They still act and treat us like terrorists, even though it's been proven over and over again that was not the case. And, I'm not kind of a vengeful type of guy. I more believe that God will sort that stuff out and everybody gets what's theirs in the end. But, if people don't have transparency and accountability and justice in this world, it's going to be very difficult for people to move on. And then these things are going to keep happening over and over again. And this escalation is, I cover a lot of stuff. I was kind of born of the convoy. I've been covering the protest scene in Ottawa and all over Canada for quite some time. And I'm shocked by what happened here. This is completely beyond the pale. The fact that this can happen anywhere, let alone in Canada, absolutely shocks me. The fact that now we have a paramilitary organization doing the bidding of unelected bureaucrats with unlimited power. You know, we have rules that our Canadian military cannot be deployed on the people for very good reasons. So they can't be used against us. But if you militarize the RCMP and use them, what's the difference? They have drones, they have helicopters, they have unlimited power, they can threaten whoever they want, they can break the law, and there's zero accountability. And then they can threaten you for trying to report it.
Chris, it's
Like that.
it's doom pill. I mean, it's not doom pill in terms of like go nuts. You know, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, I've got a fear of God, I've got a fear of sin, and I've got a family. I don't think anybody, if you let your evil temptations, if you succumb to your evil temptations and you do something, so you let them victimize you a second time because you've let them provoke you into doing something that will land you in jail and ruin your life. So they get to ruin your life.
That's what they want. And it's not just them, right? This has been happening to me ever since the convoy. The Ottawa police waged a campaign like this against me for quite some time. Toronto police have come at me a number of times. I've been surrounded by like 6 horses in Toronto. You know, this isn't normal stuff. It's meant to provoke. It's meant to scare and intimidate people. And it's meant to stop people like me and others from showing this evil to the world, to stop people from standing up and for people to be afraid to report on it. But I'm not going to back down from bullies. I never have. I never will. This is uncomfortable. I'm jumping out of my skin with these. But that's the enemy right behind me. But I'm here, and you know, I don't have the same attachments that I used to. You know, my business from before COVID is gone. My family's grown up, and you know, I'm a single guy in a field, so I can do this now. What are they going to take from me? I mean, they threatened to take my literal freedom, but you know, I stand on what's right, and I'm going to keep standing.
Chris, I'm glad we met in Ottawa. I'm glad there were eyes on the ground there. It's an abject horror. It was deliberately done in a way to traumatize, to terrify, to provoke a response. It is the definition of terrorism. And Royal Canadian Mounted Gestapo, you are Canada's terrorists right now. You're Hitler's willing executioner.
Look behind me here. So this is the seized property, and a family member is having to go through an armed checkpoint to get out of their property. This isn't Universal Ostrich Farms. This is an unrelated property that was seized for logistical purposes, and they've been terrorizing the family that lives there for a month. So, you know, there's a meth lab beside your place. Can they take your house and keep it? I don't know. Seems like they can. Seems like they can do whatever they want.
All right, Chris, we're going to stay in touch. How long are you're going to head out when the police head out? I mean, you're going to stick around with me?
Determined yet. I mean, there's a lot to still go over here. Like, once they're cleared out, I want to see what's left behind. I want to go out there and find out what kind of bullets what kind of shells there are. And there's still a lot to go through. Plus, there's a lot of layers to this story that I just wasn't able to get to with the fast pace and up and down of everything. But I do want to be able to tell that broader story, and I want to make sure I have everything I need before I go to tell that story.
I'm sure there are multiple open invitations to any whistleblowers within the CFIA or whatever pharma company, in my view, was behind all of this, because this was a pharma science grab. It had nothing to do with health. Chris, thank you for doing everything that you've done. How can people support you? I'm going to put your link to your Twitter, but how can people support you financially for what you're doing?
Yeah, so I guess the best way to do that, if you want to support me directly, you could do that by e-transfer to daceymedia@gmail.com. I do have a merch store at the Veterans for Freedom, Veterans for Freedom. It should be back up today or tomorrow. So that's an alternative.
Dacey, I just gave the wrong one. It's daceymedia@gmail.com. I got fat fingers in it. Now I'm getting that Gmail. Okay, gmail.com, whatever. I got daceymedia@gmail.com is there. Right. Chris, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Viva.
All right, man. Godspeed. Keep it up.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Yeah, please. All right. That's Chris, everybody. Now, seething hot rage that makes you have bad thoughts that you know are bad thoughts. Like, not you're not going to go. I was discussing this with Twitter, I guess, yesterday. You know, the killdozer. What's his name? Niemeyer. The killdozer guy who just wanted to be left alone. Rambo. And the killdozer guy who snapped, gets in a bulldozer, a killdozer that, a tank that he made, runs havoc over, oddly enough, innocent people's businesses, gets killed in the process, accomplishes nothing to further his own righteous objectives. It ends up just becoming, on the one hand, a martyr and a symbol to a certain portion of the population, and on the other hand, an example to others. It didn't accomplish the goal. They want to provoke people into doing something stupid so they can victimize them a second time and then use them as the examples as to why they now need to come down and enforce even harder on the rest of society. There were reports this morning that the CFIA headquarters in, where was it, Kelowna, that it had shit and eggs thrown at their headquarters. Did you see this? It's like, and it's the classic, it's a possibility. I don't know who did it. If it's someone who's outraged throwing shit at the CFIA headquarters, it's going to be counterproductive. If it's what I think it might be, well, throw a brick through your own window, and it's the easiest way to raise money during an election campaign. It's an old Chicago proverb. Where is the come on, there was the whole thing where they had poo-poo on, I guess it's right here. Here. The reporting of earlier today. Here, bring this up. Office in Kelowna has feces. First of all, I would suggest testing that feces to find out if it's ostrich feces, and if it is, you might know who threw a brick at their own window. If it was someone who's outraged doing this, it's counterproductive. It might make you feel good in the moment, and then they'll arrest you. You'll go to jail. Your life will be ruined, and they'll get to say, look at these savages. Now we need to govern them harder. Flip side, the RCMP are terrorists. These are actual text messages between RCMP members back in the Ottawa trucker convoy. Just watch that horse video. That is awesome. We should practice that maneuver. Agreed. Put me back on high hero, and they will be served. Ha ha. Put me back on gyro. Here's another one. Cheers, crew. Here's to some sweet overtime this weekend. To our on-call members, don't kick all of them out until next week's group gets our turn. These are RCMP officers gleefully rejoicing in beating the shit out of the people they are supposed to represent. Terrorists. You think they wouldn't throw shit at the CFIA headquarters, their own client in this? And then say, look at what they did. What was this one here? Looks like they need more leg into hand. Oh, and then they're talking about their nice hotel room at the Chateau Laurier. Oddly enough, Chateau Laurier, right about where, if I'm not mistaken, they saw the guy carrying a Nazi flag, a swastika flag. I have second gas mask, size medium, never used it. If anyone doesn't have one and would require one tomorrow, I'll take it. I'll bring it tomorrow. Thanks. Time for the protesters to hear our jackboots on the ground. There's a word for these people, and it's fucking terrorists. Sorry, that's 2 words. No, you think they wouldn't throw shit at their client, the CFIA's headquarters, and then say, look what they did. Now we've got to come in and more. Oh, they're so dangerous. They're so violent. They're such extremists. Look at the way they're responding to our brutal slaughter of their healthy, innocent animals.